And we're live. Okay, welcome to Cars and Popcorn, the fourth episode, where you guys call in and we talk about the cars from the movies and TV shows that you love. This week, I have my special guest, Joe Chencharik. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name right now, but how you doing, Joe?
I'm good. How you doing, Tom? No, you're good with the name. It's Chencharik, but I should have mentioned that earlier. No, all good. I can't wait to talk a little Harry and Lloyd.
Yeah, so we'll just jump right into it. Your selection this week was Dumb and Dumber. So, the question I pose is, what made you choose this movie, and what's your favorite car from the movie?
All right, so I know this is like the most not you don't think of cars when you think of this movie, but I chose this movie. It's a uh, my favorite comedy of all time, but it's not just that. Like it's very like I connect with it. Like me and my brother grew up loving it, and we watch it still consistently religiously. And it's a movie that actually, because on the surface level, it's just slapstick and like Dumb and Dumber. But it's actually there's a lot more going on in like almost every scene with the jokes and what they're trying to do than just those broad things. And I love that about it. And then when I saw the car thing, I actually could kind of break this down to like the three acts in three different cars. My favorite car actually is not the car; it's the taco, the like little like moped they kind of ride into Aspen. But the most famous and classic one is the '84 Sheepdog. So, but I don't. I always think that people don't actually like truly appreciate Dumb and Dumber. You know, they definitely think it's funny, but there's so many subtle lines. But this movie also, like I said, has a lot of different meaning to me, and it's something I laughed all my life with like, my brother and other friends. So that's why I chose it. And yeah,
And here we see the mud cuts mobile itself. Joe, you pointed out that this isn't exactly from the Dumb and Dumber movie, but the best picture I could find at the moment.
not
But as you said before, it's an
it's not,
'84.
but that's it's yeah 84 sheepdog, or it's a what, ecoline
The kind of line.
econoline,
Old
yeah.
old Ford van sitting on a truck chassis with a dog over it.
So, and I should preference to anyone listening, I know nothing about cars. Don't hold like I drive a Honda Accord that's a beat up piece of crap, and but I think that's why I kind of picked this because it's like if we like how we watched it right now, like we could really like it's like oh wow, everything does just kind of take place in the car or with the car.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
rewatched it. I rewatched it for this episode, and I just realized how much this was. This was, I mean, it was obviously a road trip movie, so they spend most of the time in cars.
well, yeah, well, you start off the movie and he's driving the limo. So you're ready, got a car right there, pulling up. Excuse me, my driver's a little bit lost. And then the whole intro is a whole car. They're both drivers. Yeah, right there. The
And
Lincoln.
here's a limo right here.
Yeah, they're both drivers. With this Cadillac stretch limo, and you got even the gags in the limo of just like the nose getting clipped by the window as he's like, lovely accent you got there, New Jersey. It's I don't know. It's,
Also,
well then, let's put another shrimp on the barbie. Um, that and then it cuts to Jeff Daniels, Harry in the Mutts Cut van, and he's whipping that thing around with getting the food and with the dogs in the back, and I don't know. It's so inherently silly. I mean, that's what the movie is. Um, but that's kind of why I love it. But then there's these like, sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place. But then there's these like brilliant moments in that movie, actually, in their like more subtle lines of like just a look like Jeff Daniels would give, or like Jim Carrey would give, or like one of the jokes I think is really funny, but like it gets missed is when they're at the diner and Jim Carrey goes, "Oh, they have the monkeys. They're a huge influence on the Beatles." Like it's so dumb, but it's actually kind of brilliant in how dumb that joke is. Or maybe I'm just dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know, but uh, but yeah. So he turns his Harry turns his life savings and puts it into making his van a dog.
So that kind of has me curious. That very line actually. So he says
Mhm.
he uses life savings to turn the vehicle into a dog. What else did he do? Because there's no way just a bunch of carpeting and the weird tongue was his entire life savings unless he was like broke. But I'm kind of wondering with how he's whipping it around, what kind of upgrades he did to that van.
Hmm. You know, I, he probably life savings to him was like $2,000, and because and I mean you can almost chalk that up to like a line they say of when they go out for looking for jobs when they run away from the gas man of you know oh, there's no jobs out there unless you want to work 40 hours a week.
Who
Like
wants to do
I
that?
I don't, even though Harry is the smarter one of the two, I don't I don't know if life savings uh really was like what like most of us would think of life savings would be.
And I know as you see the van jumping that the other thing about that van, there really isn't an intake for this. There's like those two little holes cut out on the nose, but what is that doing to his engine's heat?
Well,
It's got a big carpet sitting over it.
oh, the thing would probably fucking light on fire. I mean, like I'm sure when I was like a little kid, and like I say, like I've been watching this movie since I was like 3 or 4. Like one of my early memories is seeing my cousin laughing to this movie, like just a instant memory. But I bet you at some point as a kid when I was 6 or 7, I was like, that's what I want. I want to turn my car into a dog. But that photo you have there, and you're looking under, and you know what you're looking at when you're seeing under there and the intake, and the original one they probably used was probably much different than what they were setting up for that one trick shot from that horrible sequel.
we
That you have the
we won't talk about that one.
uh,
We're only here talking about the good one.
thank thank you. I mean, like I could get started if you want. It's a travesty. It doesn't exist.
I'd rather not. That movie made me sad.
Thank you. I left. I didn't leave the I watched the whole thing, but the minute it ended and they were showing like the clip shows and the credits from the old one, I just got up and left because it was pissing me off so much. But so yeah,
Anyway, we mentioned little moments, and I wanted to transition actually to the scene in the diner. I'll just pull up the picture right here of like just going back and watching the kind of interesting things that I saw. You'll see, you can see my cursor. I don't think you can,
yeah,
but right over Lloyd's right shoulder is an old '69 International, and
okay.
that's actually really cool.
Oh, okay, cool. So like what were you thinking like just because I kind of pointed this out, like you said, like the international um did this movie have like more of these like strange kind of cars like popping up like that in it?
I mean, that was the biggest one. There were a few old obscure Toyotas, but and oh, and actually another really interesting one was an old Jeep Grand Wagoneer limo in the back. I forget what scene exactly, but pull up a decent shot right here. That's weird.
Oh wow, that's funky. I mean, that's I I know exactly why that probably was even put back there. I mean, I don't know if it was actually thought. Like, I mean, I don't who knows how much the Fairley brothers are thinking about, in the set dressings, but um, it it's like I think it was trying to having those type of cars and trying to paint this like high end like view of like how people in Aspen are and whatnot. But that's a funky car. I would have never noticed that. Speaking of that, and like when they get to Aspen, one of my favorite uh, things is Lloyd's view in his mind of what he thinks people do in Aspen. Like he has the dream sequence, and in his mind they're all wearing ugly Christmas sweaters, sitting around fires, telling stories, and just and and throws the peanuts in his face. But like he has this like it almost like thinks it's like a Norman Rockwell type of like living for everyone up there. In reality, it's just like they're essentially like in the Hamptons, but
Yeah, pretty much.
of Colorado. So I always find that hysterical. That so were people buying limos in station wagons?
I mean, I guess, but as you can see the picture here, the one I found interesting was when they got passed on the way to Aspen, and in the an old Porsche 911, I believe this was actually a '78. Not pictured is the scene where it went off road and crashed right in front of them. Most likely.
Yeah,
I don't know what that guy was doing because 911s don't handle that well in the dry. They're very tough to control, and he decided to drive his around in the snow.
they probably, unfortunately, I said they probably didn't. They probably just said throw some cars on there. We need to make it look like rich. I thought, you know what? I've thought the same thing. Like they're whipping around the Lambo, and I'm like, that a Lambo doesn't work in the snow.
Yeah, that. I mean, the generally in the snow you kind of want smaller tires, and the what the car was in that scene was the '91 Diablo, which was actually my favorite car of the movie. Seen here,
Mm, oh, it's a sexy car.
that thing has massive rear tires. Those
Yeah,
tires are what I believe are the biggest on a production car at that time. They were huge. So that's well on any road that isn't plowed perfectly.
that shot that you have from it is one of those like those little moments that are great when he opens the car and like all these like shopping boxes and bags kind of fall out. Like they've come into all this money and they've given all this money, but they're wasting it on like the richest hotels, and they 275,000. You might want to hold on to that one for the Lambo. Oh, I,
I mean, that's in the 1990s. That was a great way to spend over 200 grand on that beautiful, beautiful Diablo. Which
you're
is
right.
that's actually one of my favorite Lamborghinis. Actually, it was based on the Countach right before it. A little backstory for
Cool.
those who don't know about cars: the at that time Lamborghini was owned by Chrysler, and that was the one vehicle that the Chrysler Lamborghini made, and it was basically just a Countach with a cooler looking body.
Yeah, it's such a cool car. I feel like that was one of the ones you'd buy almost like one of the model car type of cars and just like leave it in the box. Like it's such a cool car.
Lamborghinis have always been poster cars, and just seeing that thing roll up, you know that.
Yeah. It, I love when you first see the car and it whips in. Oh God, doesn't the license plate um even read something?
I don't remember what the license plate said.
Oh no, I have it up. It doesn't. Sorry. I thought it said something like a vanity plate, but it pulls up and the music's playing, and they get out and they're wearing these like the '90s ski wear, but with the cowboy hat and everything's like tasseled and puffy. Oh,
And
just
exactly what they
it was
think,
so fun.
and exactly what they think that everyone in Aspen wears.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what idiots would think are high end. But this out though, another thing I do like a lot about this movie and what does make it one of like my favorite comedies is um it just goes back to back to actually the horrible sequel conversation of I there's like a sweetness to this movie. Like the characters are dumb, but there's an innocence to them, and in a weird way, they generally mean well, even though things never go correct. And I think in that sequel, unfortunately, that's what was lost. They were just going for gags and not character.
Yeah,
Because Harry and Lloyd are
the
pretty
sequel is
strong
more
characters.
creepy.
Yeah, it is. Um, I'm sorry, we didn't want to get into that, but it's hard not to compare the two of saying like how like they really did like flesh out the characters in this movie to a degree. Like they gave little background with like Harry and Lloyd have had like a kind of a tiff with Fredo Felcher, um, but it works just perfectly the chemistry with them because you have I'd say Jim Carrey in his prime. I mean, this was like right like oh actually this was released like literally like right before Ace Ventura was about to drop or like right after.
Yeah, this was his big year. If I remember correctly, this was Ace Ventura.
It,
I believe, The Mask was the same year. This
it
was the
was I
year of
think
Carrey.
yeah, and I think he had done The Mask and it was like a relatively success, but um from like watching behind the scenes stuff, the studio had didn't have much confidence actually in Dumb and Dumber. And then like someone said like no, wait until this Ace movie comes out, and that kind of came out, and that helped this get its success. But no, he was firing on all cylinders in '94. But Jeff Daniels is like the real unsung hero of the tandem
Well,
because he just
in the world of two idiots, he was the straight man.
yeah, and he still has his goofy moments and dumb moments. Um, but I mean, do you eh, oh, I'm blanking on it. But
Lost train of
so
thought.
yeah, I did just for a minute. I got lost in Dumb and Dumber, and then my brain went to Dumb and Dumber. So
Anyway, transitioning to how '90s this movie was. Another car that's plenty noticeable was pretty much the icon of the '90s,
oh, we had
the
that.
classic Jeep XJ, the lovely Cherokee.
We have. I used to. My mom had that car in red and then in black.
So many people had that car in the '90s, and a lot of people out here in Michigan still have that. It's like the most popular winter car. They still sell for an unreasonable amount of money.
I I still like that car.
I,
Um,
I mean, it's awesome. That's one of those little things in the '90s that was one of the most popular cars, and it just ties in as I believe the FBI agent was driving that car, and Harry had no idea at the time.
yeah.
Anyway, you
he, that scene though. You go like I'm still always thinking of those subtle moments, and they're not subtle. Someone's gonna be like, they're not subtle, you idiot. But skis, they're yours. Yeah, both of them. Yeah, cool. So I could go. I could probably do the whole line of each scene you pop up.
anyway, you mentioned before you had like a three car theory of the
Okay.
acts versus based on the car. So let me go ahead and let you start you on that tangent.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I feel like I'm just tangenting away here. But So the first act is clearly mutt cuts. I mean, I guess you could put the limo in there, but really, that's the only thing they own. That's the only thing they really have to their name, or to both of them. And it's their blood, sweat, and tears. That isn't the worm store. They had to leave that. I got worms. That's what we're gonna call it. I got worms. But so they have that, and then he drives 500 miles in the wrong direction after they get jerky and whatnot in that scene, and they go to the rear to the right, and then they lose the car. They're like, I'm gonna walk home, I'm gonna go home. That's one of the only times they're out of the car. And I mean, this is after. And here's another Carl thing: is the main bad guys. His car breaks down. They have to pick him up. I mean, we don't normally pick up hitchhikers, but I'm gonna go with my instinct on this one. Saddle up, partner. But no, so they had to pick him up. So that's still my first car. The second one is not so much a car. Is once that breaks down, and that shows the turning point in the movie of there's a conflict and they're not with each other. That's when he comes back with the taco. That's the second one, and they ride the taco in. But if you look at them, they're so sunny and cheery. Yeah, and you have to cheer you to ride that into Aspen from, what was that, like Wyoming or something? And he's holding the briefcase. That's clearly not them. And and that's the one, and they kind of put up with that until they hit their riches when they're dying and with cold hands in Aspen, living like bums for like the 10-minute scene. And then the Lamborghini. So I actually should say 4, because they end up with no car at the end. So they have the Lambo, they have that, and then after all of their, and that's really showing their riches and how they're splurring and what they're thinking this life is all about. And then they lose it all to help get Mary's husband back, and then they're just kind of left wandering, and the Hawaiian Tropicana girls pull up in their tour bus looking for 2 oil boys, but they made a terrible mistake and told them the town was in the wrong direction. So that's my loose theory of the cars do link up with what is going on in the movie. They're not just driving. They're not just driving around a van to drive around a van. The van does have a character and purpose to it. The moped, a hysterical gag. Especially when he tells, he's like, man, I gotta pee. He's like, just go, man. They get off, and he's like, he's sticking to him. He has fucking bugs in his teeth.
The bike, just building on your theory, the bike kind of almost represents their like low point in the story.
Yeah,
that's when they kind of have nothing left. They trade in the van for they're optimistic at the beginning, then they trade in for the mini bike. That's kind of their low point. Then it builds up to the Lambo, although the jump was pretty massive.
So when you brought we're asking for guests and put this, and we pitched this movie to you there, immediately that's kind of where the gears started turning of like why I think things were chosen in that. And there's probably no BuzzFeed article written on this, but I'm sure there is. The low moment though is one of the better moments. It's all good to me. What am I talking about? Just you've had an extra pair of gloves this whole time? Yeah, my hands were getting a little warm.
Yeah,
but I did.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
I was just building saying, yeah, this this really is a comedy classic when I was looking back on it, how insanely funny it still is today. And I kind of thought to
Ah,
myself, building on the old Spencer Gilbert show, does it hold up? And I think there's like one question for a comedy of whether it does hold up. The first question you need to answer is is it making pop culture references, or is it the pop culture reference? And
ooh,
that will determine.
that's great.
That's the thing I noticed when I look back on things like Dumb and Dumber and Ace Ventura. Those they're not a lot of modern comedies. Based a lot on pop culture references of what's happening today, and that's great and everything. But those classic Jim Carrey movies, those were the references at the time.
Oh, this is making reference like that. This is making this is the pop culture. Yeah, they do. There's a couple jokes in there that are reliant on knowledge of like the 90s, and there's only one really in particular I could think of, and that's when they're in the diner and he goes, "Excuse me, Flo," and she's like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, sorry," like the old TV show. Like that's a reference for like a very specific thing, but they're not. Most things are iconic. I mean, how many times when you're on Twitter and it's some sort of like a football game or a baseball game or any sporting event, and the team's coming from behind, and always I'm guilty of it. Someone's pulling up the GIF or a meme of, "So you're saying there's a chance," right? Like, I mean, it's probably happening right now.
Yeah, I feel like that gif's really taken off ever since it's become a thing. There's- I
Yeah,
mean, that's a classic line that's somehow gotten a second life because of gifs.
it that was the one I love that what you just said though of the becoming pop culture is it pop culture because it this to me is like a true one. Like my second, I would say the modern. I mean, this is modern movie, but it's over 20 years old now. The modern Dumb and Dumber is probably Step Brothers for a certain generation. You know, and I love Step Brothers. It's and that movie actually does have that same similarity of it became the pop culture too.
I mean, we wouldn't have boats and hoes without Step Brothers.
The Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria. I'm doing you in the bottom while you're drinking sangria. Nachos and lemon heads on my dad's boat. My dick won't down because your dick can float. Sorry. We sail around the world, port to port. Every time I come, I produce a quart. Hey, that's offensive. Yeah, no, but back to Dumb and Dumber. I mean, like I said, for me, like I think I make references to it sometimes that I'm not. People aren't realizing the references because, like I said, I could watch this movie at least once a month, and not get bored with it because I'm always finding something new to laugh about.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no doubt.
I like one I know my brother and I have always done. Like no one probably ever gets it when it's all back to that diner scene. Is he's like, "What's the soup of the day?" No, I'm sorry. What's the soup du jour? It's the soup of the day. Japan just goes, "That sounds good. I'll have that." Like she didn't tell him a soup. Like, I want it to be out so many times and just want someone to tell me it's the soup of the day just to do that.
Have you ever gotten that opportunity?
I do not think I have. We've made the joke every time I've looked at a every time I've looked at a soup de jour. I have gotten the opportunity though to do the ketchup and mustard. Here, Lloyd, this helps. Another,
Yes, the hot pepper thing.
yeah, another one is playing off on that scene. Another one that really does still work, and it finds my way into my making references or jokes a lot is when he takes it. I think it's Jim Carrey that says he takes it and goes, he goes, "Oh, it's more tingly than hot." And then he starts going, "Oh, I you forget don't forget, but I almost forget how like almost every scene I'm dying. Um,
It's immensely funny, and even if you get past the mud cuts, going back to the car thing, there really are a lot of little moments, whether it's them riding the bike or them driving around. It's a hidden road trip movie, even though it's not so hidden.
it's
A road
not.
trip movie in many cars.
It is. I think actually on the recent like I can make an argument, and I think in the recent the Tough Championship, was what's the best road trip movie? This, I think that was the question. This could easily have been an answer. I
Yeah,
mean,
I could see a fight with that. I could see a fight with that.
they 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 do everything that you do though for a road trip. Like like when you go on a road trip with your buddies, like you get snacks. You do have a loose budget. You stop to get gas. I mean, I actually, now we're just talking about, I don't know many movies that do show scenes of people stopping to fill up gas and it being part of the narrative.
Usually it's just kind of a throw in or a throwaway.
Yeah. So and I don't know what the basis of this or what. I think I've listened to the movie one time with the commentary off. Oh, that's what I meant to ask you actually. What version did you watch?
I watched the one that was on Amazon right now. I
Oh, the
don't have it
regular.
on the Blu-ray.
No, so the real original version.
Yeah,
Okay, good. Don't bother with the unrated version. This is just a PSA for anyone. It it's not good. It's good. It's still the same movie, but it's a great thing of what they show what how editing is important, because there's certain jokes and like moments they leave on that they left in and left go a little too long, and they put in some of like more like I don't want to say grosser stuff, but like things that just don't go with the movie in it. And like for me, like I noticed like the extra, like beat for that. So it's just if you have the option, that's all I'm saying. Like one of the scenes is like the sea bass scene in the bathroom. That goes on like for a second too long. It doesn't cut away. Yeah, stuff like that. We're like
it's
actually
one of
same
those.
diner. Like, oh, sorry. Go on.
I'm
So we're
sorry.
just saying.
So it's one of those things they where they put the cut scenes back in, but there you notice the reasons that they were cut.
Yeah, they didn't work, or I think the Fairleys, just in their body of work in general, the later they've got, I think they've lost sight of what made their earlier films really work, like the Dumb and Dumbers and the Kingpins. Another road trip movie, actually, you could kind of chalk up to Kingpin, and like There's Something About Mary, and even are all their movies road trips? Because I was about to say Me, Myself, and Irene, and that's a road trip movie too. Um, but then they sit at a certain point, I think, where they're just forgetting about those moments and just trying to go for the grossest possible thing because that's what they thought people want. And that's not what we want. That's not what I want. Like they work when they work. Like there's a famous story from this movie that Clint Eastwood actually stopped Jeff Daniels and said, "Hey, I relate it to the scene of you having diarrhea going to pick up the girl on the date that happened before." And that was Clint Eastwood telling Jeff Daniels this at like some event later on.
That's the most awkward yet amazing thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I could just imagine like that. You know, uh, that happened to me, kid. But sorry, I went off on another tangent there, and I trying to gear it back to cars, I guess.
No, I mean that's what it's about. We talked about how this really is a hidden car movie, how it's a great road trip movie. So I don't see anybody in the chat right now, so we're just gonna jump right on into trivia now if you're
Okay,
ready.
I'm ready.
I have
I'm
a lot
nervous.
of questions to choose from. It's usually two people, but we're going to do this anyway.
Okay.
So let's start you off with an easy one.
Mm-hmm.
Question one: how many cylinders does the 1991 Lamborghini Diablo engine have?
Oh my God, these are like these kind of questions. Oh, you're gonna be embarrassed. 8.
Nope, that would be 12, sir.
Oh, yeah, totally not car literate. I was thinking movie
Okay.
trivia. So,
Okay. This one you have a 50-50 chance of getting.
okay.
So, question two: who has the faster car collection, Jim Carrey or Jeff Daniels? So basically, who owns
Oh,
a faster car?
you know what? I'm gonna go Jeff Daniels.
Jim Carrey owns a Porsche Panamera and a
Oh,
Mercedes S63, I think. So he has a slight advantage over
yeah, he does.
breaking in.
I don't. I was thinking Jeff Daniels just because maybe he. I don't know. I could see that being a weird like thing he does, like have a bunch of cool cars. But,
He did actually have a Motor Trend article written about him, about his daily driver, which is going to lead me to my next question, which is what consistent butt of jokes car does Jeff Daniels daily drive?
oh,
That's the clue.
the butt of jokes. Uh, Prius.
That is correct, sir.
Really?
Yep, Jeff
Got
Daniels.
one. Guys, I got one.
Jeff Daniels daily drives a Toyota Prius as of 2009 at least. But
That makes
he talked
sense.
a lot of he talked a lot about like how automakers should be going green and about the
Okay.
environment in that article. That was
Fuel efficient.
actually a pretty interesting read. Okay, so
Hmm.
this one is normally like for the guest of a paying attention question, but we're going to see if Joe was paying attention during his own show. What American automaker owned Lamborghini at the time of the movie?
Oh, I'm sorry, you broke up there for a second.
What American automaker owned Lamborghini at the time of the movie?
Hmm. Who owned Lamborghini?
Yep.
All right, don't kill me if I get this wrong. Was it Ford?
Nope. That would be Chrysler, sir.
I'm horrible. I even studied. It's
Okay.
funny. I even studied out the car's IMDb movie car IMDb for this, but it doesn't list that. So
Okay, I'm looking for the right question to give you a chance because so far Billy and Tom and Kimber have the best records of 2 out of 5 correct.
okay. So you're
So
saying there's a chance?
I'm
Ah,
saying there's a chance.
ah.
I know I have a good one on here for you.
Yeah. This is where being car illiterate doesn't help.
Okay, so we're gonna jump to another movie in Jim Carrey's database and to a particular scene. Let's see how big of a Jim Carrey fan you are, because I remember this scene. What grade of what grade of gasoline did Ace Ventura say his high performance machine needed when trying to get more money from the hot dog owner at the beginning of the film? So what grade of fuel?
I just want to clarify, like the grade, like regular, like a premium or something like that is what you mean by grade.
Yep,
Okay.
correct.
'Tis Monte Carlo. Diesel? I know Diesel doesn't go into there, but I could see him saying that.
Well, it's a high performance machine, so he had to fill it with premium.
Fuck. Sorry.
It's okay. The funny thing was, I actually had a question on here. What make and model car did Jim Carrey drive in Ace Ventura? I'm like, Joe's got a better chance of answering the grade of fuel. And then I heard you say Monte Carlo, and I'm like, oh.
I remember it being a Monte Carlo. I'm not. I like Ace Ventura. I've enjoyed Ace Ventura, but it's not like in the Dumb and Dumber where like I could do a one-man show acting out every scene of Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, I mean,
I kind of did
for
that.
me, I grew up with Ace Ventura, so that was always my Jim Carrey performance. So you got 1 out of 5, which means you've done better than Billy's second attempt, and you've done better than Noel. You've done the same as Nolan and Bill. So far, no one's gotten 0 correct except for Billy that one time.
I'm hitting myself in the head though, because I should have got at least 3 correct. Because I should have got the Jim Carrey one correct, so that makes sense. And I'm saying me, you just asked questions. And I should have got the 12-cylinder one correct. Because like I should just know that. That's you could shun me. You could block me now on Twitter. But no, premium. I mean, I don't remember the scene. If I remember the scene, I would have probably remembered the I was thinking Diesel just because I'm like, he's an idiot also. Because I do understand how gas works.
Yeah, I just know so many lines from that movie. I immediately thought that when I was making trivia questions.
No, dude, your trivia questions were really great though. I will say that it's such a fun, unique spin on this.
So that was our trivia for today, and so sorry to cut you off, but I was gonna ask you for any final thoughts and anything you'd like to plug as we close out here.
Okay. I was gonna ask you a trivia question. If you did any Dumb and Dumber research. You do any Dumb and Dumber research?
I watched the movie and went on IMDb a little bit, so research.
Okay.
Not as
do you know the name of the? I have to fact check myself, but do you know the name of what the original title was called?
I do not actually, and I wouldn't be able to guess without saying something stupid.
No, it's not a known thing. It pops up on the original title of it was supposed to be Tweedledee and Tweedledum. I'm glad they changed it.
Yeah, I don't think that's as an appealing title.
All right, but anyway, no, my final thoughts are I hope everyone took away something a little different than what the movie normally is about with this conversation. Thank you so much for having me on, Tom. And this is, I think, one that don't just think of it when you saw it when you were 12. Rewatch it, because there is a lot more to the movie than the poop scene. But yeah, so anyway, my plug though is you can follow me on Twitter at Chendanga1. And you can listen to my podcast. What? You haven't seen that? And we do weekly shows or bi-weekly shows of films that people just kind of confused of like, why haven't you seen? And I tell my guests to go watch that film, and then we go on and we just have a very much like this, have a light conversation about the movie. And I'm hoping to have Tom on very soon.
All right, and Joe, once again, thank you for being on and making the weird episode so early in this podcast career. But
I hope it was weird enough. I should have got one of those foam cowboy hats that Jim Carrey wears in it.
I was fully expecting you to show up in the green suit that you have on Twitter. That's what I was expecting.
I thought about it actually for half a second, and
It's hot. It's hot in my apartment. I did have a tuxedo T-shirt of the baby blue one though. It's the next. Those are the next suits we'll get, guys. But thanks, really though. Thanks, Tom. I had a lot of fun talking today.
All right. And again, thank you. And for everyone else, you can follow me at Road Raider 3, and of course subscribe and whatever those YouTube folks say about channels, comment and all that other jazz. We'll be back in probably a couple weeks. I kind of rushed this one out because I'll be away next weekend. But hopefully, if you have any suggestions, shoot me a message on Twitter, and we'll try to schedule one out. And once again, thank you, Joe, and everybody have a nice day.